my partner in the first show, Brett Arthur, wanted to produce the show totally by himself. I said, go ahead, you're the producer. He called me, he said, he was very excited. He said, who is your #1 choice in Atlanta, the #1 guest you want? I said, Monica Kaufman. Good luck, you'll never get her. Ladies and gentlemen, Monica Kaufman. I can't believe that he got you to come in here.
It was real easy. I was singing the national anthem at a polo match for charity that was benefiting charity, and Brett was there. And we started talking. He said, well, I'm going to call you one day. And I said, he said, remember who I am. Once you meet Brett, you can't forget him.
It's hard to forget him.
And he called and asked me to come, and here I am.
That is such a hard song. I didn't even know you were a singer.
Yeah, I sang all my way through college, and I think all of us, when you grow up in the Catholic school system, particularly when I was in the school system, everyone sang, whether you had a voice or not. So I think in my case, it just kind of stuck. I am
it's a hard song to sing.
I am a frustrated singer by heart. Not really.
Really?
I think it's all in how you hear it.
It's a cappella, right?
Yeah, and I have fairly good pitch and fairly good ear, although it has failed me from time to time.
If you were going to give up television news and become a singer, what kind of music would you sing?
I would do jazz and blues, which of course doesn't sell now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Anita Baker's doing a lot.
Yeah, Anita Baker's doing a lot, and I guess if anybody's in a vein that I am, it would be the Anita Baker vein.
Yeah, but jazz is happening. Kenny G just had a huge hit with Songbird, a saxophone instrumental solo. It doesn't happen very often.
But that kind of jazz is more what I call, I guess what you'd say would be fusion. Yeah. Whereas what I like are the old things like God Bless the Child. I like that old kind of music, which betrays me, even though I'm 40, that I grew up hearing that music.
You did that on the air. Your 40th birthday on the air.
It was fun.
No problem.
No problem.
Didn't care. Didn't affect you one way or another.
It was fun because a lot of people took it very seriously, and I wasn't nearly as serious about it as everybody else was. You didn't have a problem with it when
you reached 40?
I think it hit me before. I think it hit me like around 38, yeah.
I think that you're probably the most recognizable television personality in Atlanta.
I get around a lot.
How did you do that?
I'm quite serious, Alan, when I said I get around a lot. A lot of people go into television news and they think all they have to do is cover stories and all they have to do is anchor the news. But the secret to longevity, I have learned, is in the number of speeches you do, in the number of appearances, whether it's on radio or television. I do volunteer work because I like doing it, but I also do it because it's another way for me to stay in contact with viewers and listeners. And I think the more you are around, the more people get to know you, and so you become a part of their family.
You look like you have a lot of fun.
Oh, I do.
On the air, off the air, interview. This is just a good time.
Yeah, it's a real good time for me because I guess there's something about television news that most people take it too seriously. Those of us who do it. I mean, you know, we get very pompous and this is the news and it's life or death.
Well, there are.
And there are people whose style that is. My style is to be, as someone once wrote, like the neighbor next door. Right. I really try to talk to people. And if a story is hard and hard-hitting, then I am going to communicate it that way. But if it's a warm and fuzzy story, then I've got to be warm and fuzzy because that's the way I would be in, you know, normal way. Now, I am much more relaxed on your show than I am on the set because here I don't have to be authoritative, whereas there I have to be.
What happens when you get a story that's really heart-wrenching, really sad? Have you come close to breaking up on the air?
There have been instances, yeah, when I really wanted to shed a tear, but there's this little bitty buzzer in the back of my head that says, viewers don't want to know how you feel about the story.
So you have to be absolutely non-committal either way,
didn't say that. Didn't say that. If I read it upbeat, I would appear to be insensitive. What for me is that fine line of letting them know I care, but not to the point of where it's maudlin. There have been stories with children, in particular that child that died in New York that was beaten. I have a 7-year-old child. Almost every parent would love to rivet their kid once because they can get on your last nerve. But all of us have something that holds us back. I could feel for those parents that they didn't have the control if they are guilty, but in the same vein, I felt for that child even more to have lived such a short life and to have been so abused.
I guess that's what I was asking you. You know, you obviously have to feel it.
You feel it, but I can't let it show.
At the same time, I
can't let it show to the point.
That seems like a tough line to hit. How do you hit that? Who taught you that? Or did you learn it?
I think it becomes experience and looking at your tapes and hearing viewers comment when they felt you've gone too far.
You did an interview show. I saw you interview Louis Grizzard.
Yeah, called Close-Ups. Right. Yeah, and we still do them.
How many of those did you do?
We do 2 a year. So far, we've done 3 because it's a new project the WSB is doing. I just finished doing Paul Newman, and I did Dick Clark, which you would be interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a disc jockey.
Oh, so you naturally.
Best, right.
Oh, he is wonderful. Man is a workaholic.
Yeah.
I mean, he was taping 4 shows a day of Bandstand.
I wonder about that. I heard a story about him. He was in England. This is only a couple of years ago. He had a public appearance like in Minneapolis. It was for $5,000. The man has $200 million, and he flew back to do it anyhow.
Yeah, but he work is what keeps him young.
Are you a workaholic?
Yes and no. Now, 5 years ago, you would have asked me that, and I would have said yes.
All the time.
All the time.
Just right around the
But now, I've learned to back off. Like, I leave now at least 2 mornings a week that are mornings for me.
Really?
I go get my nails done. I sleep late. I lounge, which I would never do before.
I was going to ask you about stress.
Yeah.
Everybody in America is faced with stress. This is a more complicated society than it used to be. You have a more complex job than most people have. There's a lot of pressure on you, not only on the air, but the show prep and whatnot. How do you handle stress, or is it just not a big problem for you?
Of course it's a big problem. Yes, it's a big problem.
I would think so,
but I have to do certain things to keep it in its proper perspective. For instance, I really do leave those 2 days. My therapy is going to get my nails done once a week. But sitting in a chair with no control, you can't move for an hour because you've got to wait a half an hour for them to dry. You know, and they are not fake, they are real. I grow them. I'm too cheap to have them done.
They're beautiful.
And they only cost me $10 to do versus sculptured, which costs more. But that is my rest period. 3 days a week, I either run, do Jane Fonda, or ride my bicycle. I don't care what happens. I don't care.
You get it done.
I get it done. You know, I will say no, I don't answer my phone, I get my exercise. Claire and I plan activities, my 7-year-old, on weekends that we do. We go up to the mountains. I have a house in the mountains, and I go there and rest. 5 years ago, Alan, I didn't do that. Now I have learned, in order for me to be at my best all the time, truly to be at my best, and not on stage, and you know the difference between the two, to wanting to be there because you want to be and wanting to be there because you have to be.
That's why I asked the question. I can relate to it. I can get frantic. The stress can...
I have learned how to cool out on that, and I have learned to say the magic word, no.
I'm going to ask you Barbara Walters' question.
Sure.
I hate to do this, but I love this question.
Do it.
If your life were a song,
what song would it be? God bless the child that's got his own.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That I think is more true for me than anyone, I guess, who's on television, because my parents divorced when I was very young, and my mother never made any money. She was basically a maid and a false teeth deliverer for a dental supply store. And yeah, minimum wage. And I went to a private Catholic school that she would hock her diamond to pay the tuition for. I worked my way through high school. I worked my way through college. And my mother used to sing that Billie Holiday song all the time. And, you know, she said, I can give you so much, but really, in the end, it's going to be what you have that will make you a success.
You have to be delighted with what you've accomplished so far.
I'm delighted because it lets me tell kids who are growing up in projects, it helps me tell kids who are growing up in Cabbagetown that don't look at me and say you can't do something as long as you have a, I said, as long as you got a good brain, anybody can be middle class if you apply yourself.
You're obviously a role model for a lot of people in Atlanta.
And see, I don't like being a role model. No. I have problems with that. Now, Alan, I'll be very honest with you. I say use me as a role model in terms of your career, but don't use me as a role model in terms of my personal life. Who
are your role models? Who did you look at when you were growing up? Said, I'd like to be like this person or that person.
I'm a little strange. I'm just a little strange in that way. Whenever anyone asks me that, I always feel guilty for my answer because it's like, I know, you're supposed to have a role model.
Not really, huh?
I never did have one. If there was a role model, it would be my mother, because she believed in education and hard work being the answers to almost everything. I can remember her telling me, I went to an integrated school when I was in the 3rd grade. Before that, it was all segregated. And my mother, instead of most people saying, you know, okay, if you're black and a female, you got 2 strengths against you, my mother said, if you're black and you're female, honey, that makes you stand out. That means you're noticed, so do something with the fact that you're noticed. For some people, they may consider it a negative. If you consider it a negative, it'll hold you back.
Sure.
You consider it a positive, then it'll give you a certain sense of pride.
You have you're exposed to so much news, so much, especially political news. I know you're not supposed to do this. Can we get a prediction out of you for the 1988 presidential race? No?
And the reason
too early, or is it just too early?
Two reasons.
Okay.
One, I think it's too early to predict, and two, even though I have something in the back of my mind that I feel,
right,
I can't say it. And the reason is, no matter who it is I would pick, all the other candidates who have supporters watching this show would then say...
It's like an endorsement.
Yeah. And so I never say, you'll never know if I'm Democrat, Republican, or independent, or who I vote for, or anything.
I don't see how you could do anything else, but I thought...
Yeah, but you have to. That's a good question. Good try.
Kind of tease you into it. Is Maynard Jackson going to run?
I think he will.
I think he will, too.
I think he will, too, and that's going to be a dogfight, he and Michael Lomax, because, you know, I like them both. It's going to be tough.
But a good dogfight is...
A real good dogfight, you know. That's politics at its best. When you've got, quote, the teacher and the student all of a sudden on equal level.
I think the presidential race is going to be equally fascinating. So many different candidates. Monica, thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's my pleasure. The time was so short.
I appreciate it.
Oh,